There are moments in sport when a player transcends the circumstances thrust upon them and reveals, in the clearest possible terms, exactly who they are. Wednesday night at Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis was one of those moments, and it belonged entirely to Aliyah Boston. With the face of the WNBA ruled out less than 2 hours before tip-off, with a sellout crowd buzzing in anxious uncertainty, and with a hungry expansion side ready to pull off the upset, heard around the league, Boston stepped onto the floor in only her second game, back from injury, and delivered a masterclass that left the basketball world with its jaw on the floor. 24 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, an 8 of 11 shooting night that included 2 made three-pointers, and a final scoreline that read Indiana Fever 90, Portland Fire 73. Aliyah Boston did not merely fill in for an absent superstar on Wednesday night. She took over. She shocked the league. And in doing so, she reminded every single person watching that this Indiana Fever team is far more than a one-woman show. The evening at Gainbridge Fieldhouse began with a jolt that sent shockwaves through the WNBA universe. The Fever ruled Caitlin Clark out with a back injury less than 2 hours before tip-off, marking her first missed game of the season. Just the previous day, the Fever had posted a clean injury report with no concerns listed for any player. The abrupt reversal caught fans, analysts, and media observers completely off guard. Fever head coach Stephanie White said before the game that Clark woke up with stiffness and soreness in her back, and that Clark had not participated in Tuesday's practice, instead receiving treatment and going through individual workouts afterward. White was emphatic in framing the decision as one rooted in caution rather than cause for alarm. "She's healthy. We're not managing anything," White said. "This is just a back issue that we want to make sure we give the time to be ready." The back issue, as it turns out, is not entirely new. During the Fever's season-opening loss to the Dallas Wings, Clark went back to the locker room twice to get checked by the team's medical staff. Clark herself had been characteristically unbothered about it in the aftermath, explaining that her back gets out of line pretty quickly and that she simply needed it adjusted. But with 4 games played in 8 days and the Fever now deep into a demanding homestand, the coaching staff made the prudent call to protect their franchise cornerstone. Despite being unable to play, Clark attended the game at Gainbridge Fieldhouse and showed her full support for her teammates from the bench. At one point during the contest, her visible embrace of Boston after a dominant stretch drew significant attention on social media. A moment of genuine warmth between two players who have built one of the most compelling partnerships in the modern WNBA. What Clark's absence created, however, was not a void. It was an opportunity, and Aliyah Boston seized it with both hands. To fully appreciate what Boston accomplished on Wednesday night, one must first understand what she had just come through. Her absence for Indiana's previous game against Seattle had marked the first time Boston had sat out a regular season game since high school, ending an incredible 275-game playing streak. That streak was not a minor footnote. It was a monument to durability, professionalism, and relentless preparation over a career spanning multiple all-star selections and one of the most physically demanding positions in professional basketball. Boston had suffered a lower leg injury in the Fever's prior showdown against the Washington Mystics, leaving the game with 2:01 remaining in the third quarter and never returning. The concern was amplified by the fact that she had dealt with a similar setback during the off-season's unrivaled league campaign, an injury serious enough to force her withdrawal from Team USA's FIBA Women's World Cup qualifying tournament. Coming into Wednesday's game against Portland, Boston carried the weight of all of that history. The broken streak, the lingering questions about her lower leg, and now the sudden pressure of being the senior player on the floor in the absence of Clark. None of it appeared to affect her. If anything, it seemed to set her free. The Fever led 28-20 after the first quarter, outscored Portland in each of the first 3 quarters, and never trailed in a 90-73 win. The tone was set immediately. Boston was operating at a level that reminded observers why she is considered one of the premier post players in the entire league, not just statistically, but physically, tactically, and emotionally. Boston shot 8 of 11 from the floor and collected 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and a block for the Fever. Her efficiency was the story of the night. An 88.0 true shooting percentage, a metric that accounts for the value of three-pointers and free throws in addition to field goals, tells you everything about how cleanly she executed. This was not a volume performance built on forcing shots. This was a player making the right read, at the right time, on nearly every single possession. One memorable sequence came when Boston knocked down a three-pointer, then followed it up with a layup on the next possession after sealing deep in the paint, pushing the Fever lead out further. It was that combination, perimeter range married to post dominance, that made her impossible to guard. The Portland Fire had no answer, and the box score reflects it. The Fever started out hot, making their first 5 attempts and jumping out to a quick 8-point lead. The Fire were patiently able to cut it to 2 midway through the second quarter, but Indiana responded in ruthless fashion, finishing the quarter on a 17-2 run to establish a 16-point lead at the half. That decisive run was the game's defining passage, and Boston was at the heart of it. Indiana made 9 of 28 three-pointers while holding Portland to a 3-for-16 clip from beyond the arc, won the rebounding battle by 8, 36-28, had 21 assists on 28 made baskets, and scored 20 points off 14 turnovers by Portland. This was a complete professional team performance, the kind that answers questions about depth and resilience in the most direct way possible. Boston's own assessment afterwards was measured and telling. "It felt pretty good, Shawsons," she said. "I think for me, just continuing to manage that and be ready every single night I step on the floor. No theatrics, no grandstanding, just a player who has earned her place in this league through consistent excellence and wants nothing more than to continue delivering it." Boston's dominance was the headline, but the depth of Indiana's response to Clark's absence tells a broader story about this Fever team's character and collective strength. Kelsey Mitchell was magnificent. Mitchell scored 21 points on 6 of 11 shooting, providing exactly the kind of secondary offensive punch the Fever needed alongside Boston. Mitchell has been one of the most underrated guards in the WNBA for several seasons now, and performances like Wednesday's night are a reminder of what she brings when the team needs her most. Lexi Hull was sensational in the role that defines her value, the efficient, reliable, do-everything wing who makes a great team even better. Hull added 16 points on a perfect shooting night, going 4 of 4 from the field with all 4 makes coming from three-point range and 4 of 4 from the free throw line, while also hauling in 8 rebounds. A player who shoots 100% from every spot on a given night is doing something special, and Hull's performance was a testament to her preparation and composure. The most intriguing subplot of the evening surrounded Tyasha Harris, who was handed one of the most difficult assignments a reserve guard can receive, starting in place of the best player on the team, in front of a full house, against a fired-up expansion side. Harris finished with 7 assists, 2 steals, and 0 turnovers in the starting role, though she was held scoreless on 0 for 6 shooting from the field. The scoring line will attract attention, but the assists in the 0 turnover night in 29 minutes of play tell the more complete story. Harris ran the offense responsibly, made the right decisions, and never put the team in a compromised position. Coaches win with players who do that. Raven Johnson chipped in 9 points off the bench to round out a roster-wide effort that demonstrated why Indianapolis genuinely believes this group has championship-level depth. The expansion Portland Fire arrived at Gainbridge Fieldhouse as a team that had already shown the league they were no pushover. Their 2-2 record coming into Wednesday's game, built on wins over the New York Liberty and Connecticut Sun, had earned them genuine credibility. But Wednesday exposed the areas where this young franchise still has significant work to do. The Fire are having difficulty slowing down talented big players. Portland's struggles defending in the post were a recurring theme, and they were out-rebounded 45-29 on the night, with Portland claiming only 3 offensive rebounds, a crucial factor in the loss. Bridget Carleton scored 12 of her 16 points in the first half, and Suggs Sutton finished with 14 points on an efficient 6 of 8 shooting, providing Portland's most consistent contributions. Both players showed why they are central to the Fire's long-term plans, but they received too little support from the rest of the roster. The evening also took a concerning turn for Portland near the end of the third quarter. Naidu Puash, a 21-year-old rookie who had scored in double figures in back-to-back games, struggled to put weight on her right leg as she was helped to the bench, walked to the locker room, and did not return. She was scoreless in 20 minutes. The injury to Puash, one of Portland's most promising young players, cast a shadow over the final period and left the Fire looking thin in their front court rotation. Indiana improved to 3-2 with Wednesday's victory, and the manner of it matters just as much as the result. This was not a team that stumbled to a win against a weaker opponent despite being undermanned. This was a team that, stripped of its most recognizable player at the last possible moment, responded with its best collective performance of the season. Aliyah Boston is playing the best basketball of her career to begin the 2026 WNBA season, and that assertion, made before Wednesday's game, now carries considerably more weight. The 3-time All-Star has averaged 12.0 points, 5.0 rebounds, 2.0 assists, 1.3 steals, and 1.0 block across the games she has played this season, but the numbers from Wednesday pushed her usage and impact to an entirely different level. The bigger picture concern for the Fever remains Clark's back. 5 games into the 2026 season, Indiana has had its entire starting 5 healthy together only twice, with Monique Billings, ankle, Aliyah Boston, lower leg, and Caitlin Clark, back, all missing different games. Coach White has consistently projected calm on the matter, and the Fever's results suggest the culture she has built is resilient enough to absorb these disruptions. But sustaining that resilience across a full 40-game season while managing multiple injury situations is the central challenge facing the franchise. Clark is considered day-to-day and is expected to be available for Indiana's next game at home against the Golden State Valkyries on Friday. White has made clear that this is not a long-term concern. But the back issue is something the training staff and the entire organization will be monitoring carefully. Perhaps the most enduring takeaway from Wednesday night is the simplest one. Aliyah Boston is not merely a complementary piece built around Caitlin Clark. She is a bona fide star in her own right, a player capable of carrying a contending franchise, winning games, and imposing her will on opponents when the moment demands it. Through her first 3 WNBA seasons, Boston earned 3 All-Star selections while averaging 14.5 points on 54.7% shooting, along with 8.5 rebounds and 3.0 assists per game. The resume was already compelling. Wednesday night added a chapter that the league will not soon forget. She returned from her first career absence. She did so without the safety net of the WNBA's biggest name standing beside her. She delivered 24 points on near-flawless efficiency against a full arena that needed a leader, and she gave them one. Aliyah Boston took over. The league noticed, and the Indiana Fever, injuries and all, are sending a message that should concern every team in the Eastern Conference. When this group is at its best, With Boston and Clark operating together, they are capable of something truly special. Wednesday night was just a preview.